You're sitting in your car outside Target at 9:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, staring at your banking app, trying to figure out if you can afford the $43 worth of stuff in your cart without overdrafting. Toothpaste, laundry detergent, a birthday card for your nephew. Basic stuff. And while you're doing poverty math in a Target parking lot, your coworker, Sarah, just posted photos from her second vacation this month. Cabo, again. Same job title as you, same salary, same paycheck, same rent, same city. But somehow she's sipping margaritas on a beach while you're rationing toiletries. So what the hell is going on? Is she secretly rich? Did she inherit money? Is she drowning in credit card debt behind Instagram filters? And the answer is going to make you unreasonably angry because it's none of those things. Sarah made one boring financial decision 6 years ago. It took maybe 30 minutes to set up, and then she literally forgot about it. That decision is worth $43,000 today. In 34 years, it'll be worth $2.8 million. And it costs the same amount you probably spent on DoorDash last month. If you're tired of watching people who make the same money somehow live completely different lives, hit that subscribe button, because today we're talking about the math nobody bothered to teach you in school. Let me introduce you to two people. Person A, we'll call her Jessica. She's 28, makes $65,000 a year, drives a 2019 Honda Civic she bought used, and her investment account has $47,000 in it. Person B, Amanda, also 28, also makes $65,000, drives a 2024 BMW 3 Series. Her investment account has $3,200. Both think they're doing fine. Both think they basically have the same life. Let's fast forward and see what actually happens. At 35, Jessica has $162,000 invested. Amanda has $31,000. The gap is noticeable, but Amanda's not worried. She's still young. At 45, Jessica has $535,000. Amanda has $94,000. Now Amanda's starting to panic. But she's got 2 kids, a bigger house, and even less margin to save. At 55, compound interest goes vertical. Jessica has $1.52 million. Amanda has $218,000. Amanda is Googling how to catch up on retirement at 55 and realizing she'd need to save 40% of her income. That's not happening. At 65, Jessica has $4.32 million and retires wealthy. Amanda has $461,000 and is doing the math on working until at least 72. Same starting point, same salary. One of them is financially free, the other is trapped. So what did Jessica do differently? She invested $500 every single month starting at age 22. That's it. $500 into an S&P 500 index fund, automatically withdrawn on the first of the month, and then she literally forgot about it. She checked it maybe once a year, said, "Cool, it's still growing," and went back to living her life. Amanda spent that same $500 on a car payment for her entire 20s and 30s. She always had a car payment. That's the entire difference between $4.32 million and $461,000. Now you're probably thinking, okay, $500 a month is a lot. Where am I supposed to find $500? Here's where this gets uncomfortable. You already have it. You're just spending it on things that won't exist in 40 years. The average American spends $273 a month on subscriptions they barely use. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Spotify, gym memberships they haven't visited in 8 months, apps they forgot they even signed up for. That's $273 right there. Then there's dining out and DoorDash, another $280 a month on average. Add those together and you're at $553 without even trying. But here's what that money actually costs you. That $280 restaurant budget, if invested instead, becomes $632,000 in 30 years at a 10% return. You're not spending $280 on dinner.
you're spending $632,000 on dinner. That $273 subscription habit becomes $616,000. Every single month, you're choosing between Netflix and DoorDash or retiring 7 years earlier. Most people don't even realize they're making that choice. Let me show you the math that breaks people's brains. If you invest $500 a month for 40 years in an S&P 500 index fund, you end up with $3.16 million. Out of that, you only contributed $240,000 of your own money. The other $2.92 million, 92.4% of your wealth, came from compound interest. You planted $240,000, the market grew it into over $3 million. After 10 years, you'll have about $112,000. After 20 years, $379,000. After 30 years, $1.13 million. The first $100,000 takes about 10 years of grinding. Going from $1 million to $2 million, only 6.7 more years. Your money starts making more money than you're adding. And it gets even stupider. Someone invests $5,000 a year from age 25 to 35, 10 years, $50,000 total. Then they stop, never add another dollar. At an 8% return, they end up with $787,000 at age 65. Someone else waits until 35 and invests $5,000 every year for 30 years straight. They put in $150,000, 3 times more money. They end up with $611,000. The person who invested for 10 years and stopped beats the person who invested for 30 years by $175,000. That's compound interest punishing the person who waited, even though they did everything right. They just did it a decade too late. Now you're probably getting nervous. What if the market crashes? This is the objection that keeps smart people poor. So let's kill it with data. The S&P 500 has returned about 10% annually since 1926, nearly 100 years, including the Great Depression, where the market dropped 86%, World War II, the 1970s stagflation, the dot-com crash, 2008, COVID. Through it all, the average return is still 10%. After inflation, about 7%. Still enough to turn $500 into $1.3 million. And here's the part that should actually calm you down. The S&P 500 has never produced a negative return over any 20-year period, not once in history. If you invest consistently for 20 years, you have always made money. Over 30 years, the worst annual return was 4.3%. Every crash has recovered. The 2020 COVID crash recovered in 5 months. 2008 took 5.5 years. And here's the secret nobody tells you. If you invest $500 every single month, crashes are your friend. When the market drops 30%, your $500 is buying shares at a 30% discount. Dollar cost averaging automatically buys more when prices are low. You don't have to time anything. You just keep buying. There's data from J.P. Morgan showing that if you invested $10,000 from 2003 to 2022 and stayed fully invested, you'd have $64,844. If you missed just the 10 best days out of more than 5,000 trading days, your return drops to $29,780, less than half. And here's the part that really hurts. 7 of those 10 best days happened during bear markets. So if you panic sold during a crash, you almost certainly missed the recovery. The S&P 500 survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, 9/11, and 2008. But sure, it probably can't survive you putting in $500 a month. You're the thing that finally breaks capitalism. So, if the math is this obvious, why are 46% of American households sitting on 0 retirement savings? Why is the median retirement balance for people aged 55 to 64 only $88,000? This is where you need to talk about what's actually stopping you. And it's not the math, it's your brain. Your brain is actively trying to keep you poor, not because it hates you, but because it was designed 200,000 years ago, when the biggest financial decision was whether to eat the berries now or save them for tomorrow. Your brain has no framework for sacrificing $500 today for $3 million in 40 years. So it just says, nope, eat the berries. And you end up financing a $60,000 truck. There's something called present bias. You'd rather have $500 today than $50,000 in 40 years, even though the math is screaming that you're being an idiot. Then there's loss aversion. The pain of losing $100 is about 2.25 times stronger than the pleasure of gaining $100. This is why people obsessively check their portfolios during crashes and sell at the bottom. Research shows people who check their accounts once a year or never are far more likely to build wealth. The less you look, the richer you get.
And then there's lifestyle inflation. Every time you get a raise, you immediately upgrade your life to match it. Nicer apartment, better car, fancier restaurants. Research shows 78% of people say they'll increase savings when they get a raise. Almost none actually do unless it's automated. Your brain sees extra money and instantly assigns it to slightly nicer versions of things you already had. But here's what really makes me angry. You know who's making money off your inability to save? Everyone. The financial industry makes money when you panic and trade. They make $0 when you buy one index fund and ignore it for 40 years. That's why they'll never tell you the solution is boring. Car dealerships stretch loans to 7 or 8 years so the monthly payment feels affordable. Every advertisement is designed to convince you that your $500 belongs with them, not in an index fund. They're stealing your retirement $500 at a time, and most people never even notice. Now you're probably thinking, okay, but this only works for rich people. Let me introduce you to a janitor who died with more money than most doctors. Ronald Reed was a gas station attendant and janitor in Vermont. He never made more than $20,000 a year. He showed up to work in a jacket held together with safety pins, drove a 2007 Toyota Yaris with rust eating through the doors. His coworkers joked about how cheap he was. One guy said, if Ron made $50 in a week, he'd probably invest $40 and live on $10. Ron died in 2014 at 92. His lawyer called the local hospital about his will. The hospital was probably expecting $5,000. Ron left them $4.8 million. The local library got $1.2 million. His estate was worth over $8 million. The same coworkers who mocked his rusty Toyota had been working next to a multi-millionaire for decades and had no idea. Ron just bought dividend-paying stocks every single week for 70 years, never sold. He could have retired at 50. He just liked his job. That's what financial freedom actually looks like. Sylvia Bloom was a legal secretary in Manhattan. She took the subway for 67 years. When lawyers placed stock orders, she quietly bought smaller amounts of the same stocks. When she died, she had over $9 million and left $6.24 million to charity. Grace Groner bought 3 shares of Abbott Laboratories stock in 1935 for $180. She reinvested every dividend and never sold. When she died in 2010 at age 100, those 3 shares were worth $7.2 million. Fidelity now has 595,000 401k millionaires. Average contribution rate, 14.1% of salary. Average tenure, 26 years. That's it. On the flip side, the median retirement savings for Americans aged 65 to 74 is $200,000. Social Security pays an average of $1,976 per month. 1 in 5 Americans over 65 is still working because they have to. These are people who worked 40 or 50 years and still ended up broke. They didn't fail because they were lazy. They failed because they spent the $500 on car payments, restaurants, and things that felt important at the time and don't exist anymore.
People will spend 40 hours researching which $1,200 phone to buy and 0 hours figuring out how to turn $240,000 into $3 million. That phone will be worthless in 3 years. The investment will be worth millions in 40. But hey, at least the camera has good night mode. Here's something wild. Ronald Reed died with $8 million. The average doctor dies with $1.2 million in debt. Turns out, buying a $90,000 BMW every 3 years costs more than actually being successful. Now let me tell you about the fee scam quietly stealing hundreds of thousands from your retirement. If you invest $500 a month for 30 years in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund with a 0.03% expense ratio, you end up with about $1.124 million. Put that same money for the same time into an actively managed fund charging 1% a year, and you end up with $915,000. Same money, same timeline, a $209,000 difference. That $250,000 didn't disappear. It went to the fund manager for underperforming the index. The funds you actually want are boring. Fidelity 500 Index Fund, FXAIX, 0.015%, Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, 0.03%, Schwab S&P 500 Index, SWPPX, 0.02%. Pick any one, they all track the same index and cost almost nothing. Here's what nobody tells you about the $500 you think you don't have. The average new car payment is projected to hit $748 a month in 2025. That payment isn't $748. It's $1.69 million over 30 years at a 10% return. You're trading $1.7 million for the privilege of driving something that loses 20% of its value the second you drive it off the lot. Every $100 a month you invest becomes $226,000 in 30 years. Every $3.33 a day becomes $250,000. The money is there. You're just spending it on things that'll be gone in 30 years instead of on being a millionaire. Let's talk accounts. A Roth IRA. You contribute after-tax money. Everything grows tax-free forever. The 2026 limit is about $625 a month. On a $1.13 million portfolio, that saves you roughly $150,000 to $200,000 in taxes. If you make under $153,000 single or $242,000 married, this is your first stop. Then there's a 401k. Contributions are pre-tax, so if you're in the 22% tax bracket and invest $500 a month, your paycheck only drops about $390. And if your employer matches, which 85 to 98% do, that's free money. The most common match is 50% on the first 6%. If you make $60,000 and contribute $500 a month, your employer adds $150 for free. So here's what you actually do. Step 1. Open a Roth IRA at Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. Takes about 20 minutes. Step 2. Link your bank and deposit money. Step 3. Buy one S&P 500 index fund, FXAIX, VOO, or SWPPX. Step 4. Set up automatic monthly investing of $500. Step 5. Forget the account exists. Don't check it every day. Let it compound while you live your life. Look, I can show you all the math. I can tell you stories about janitors who became multimillionaires and doctors who died broke. None of it matters if you don't actually do it. Because here's the brutal truth about compound interest. Every day you wait, the math gets exponentially worse. Right now, $500 a month for 40 years gets you $3.16 million. Wait 1 year, you need $520 a month. Wait 5 years, $690. Wait 10 years, $1,150. The target moves away faster than you can catch it. There's a version of you 40 years from now checking their account and seeing $3.16 million. They're planning retirement. They're not worried about money. They're not working at 73. They're free. And there's another version, still working part-time because Social Security isn't enough, struggling to afford medications, one emergency away from disaster, wondering where the money went. And the answer is car payments, DoorDash, and subscriptions that felt important in 2026 and don't exist anymore. Both of those people are you. The only thing that decides which one becomes real is what you do in the next 30 minutes. Open the account, set up the transfer, buy the fund, then go live your life while the math works in the background. Or don't, and spend the next 40 years wishing you had. The choice is yours. The math doesn't wait. Neither does time.